Hi, I don't know if anybody's else is on, but I was looking to see if I could get some guidance on how to change the setting for the background.
Hello, Rachel. Yes, this is
Hey.
Zahi.
Hi, Zahi.
In the Zoom background, in the settings of your Zoom, you can
Right.
choose the virtual background.
Right. So my problem is I don't follow the instructions that Maria gave. I think might be for a different version of Zoom than I have. I see nothing that says settings.
So in the main Zoom, not the call, in the main Zoom.
Okay, I don't have a Zoom account.
You do not have any Zoom account at all?
I don't think so.
Okay, this will be interesting. Okay, do you have any issues in using or appearing without the background?
I mean, it's okay. It's just, I mean, yours looks much nicer. So how'd you figure that out?
It's within the Zoom. It's within the Zoom app. It's the desktop app of Zoom.
I have the same problem, Richard. You're just gonna see my room again. So
I'm hesitant with 5 minutes before we start to start downloading anything.
Well, Malak, for the record, you have a nice room. So
yeah, I agree with
Thank you.
Hello,
I haven't started my video because I still want to figure out how to change it before I do this.
Can you guys do it for us at Berytech? Come on, tech people.
You'll need to have the desktop version. So let me try to share my screen and show you how where is the button actually, if it's possible. I don't think it's possible even to do that.
I'm afraid it's going to cause problems if I try and swap over now.
Okay, so ladies, I will be putting everyone on mute and displaying the pre-event slide until we kick off officially in 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first edition of GIST, Berytech Online Meetups. GIST and Berytech have been collaborating for the past few years on building a platform for academia, for entrepreneurs, policymakers, and scientists to connect and grow the innovation and entrepreneurial cluster in Lebanon. With the recent development and the health epidemic, we have moved to the digital arena, and we are launching our series of online meetups. The first session of this series will address a key pillar of food safety, which is the stability of food supply, a topic that's very critical nowadays in Lebanon and MENA, especially in Lebanon with the devaluation of the currency, the difficulty to source in from outside Lebanon the food supplies, and the currency devaluation affecting all the players in the agri-food ecosystem, as well as the blast of port of Beirut that caused us severe losses in our food supply. Without further ado, we will kick off this session with a brief introduction from our in-house expert, Soha Nasser. Soha, if you can share your screen and open your video.
So sorry for the technical issue. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are able to see my screen. So the first question, how we feed 9 billion people by 2050? Any seminar, conference, or meeting around the world about food security revolve around this question. In Lebanon today, unfortunately, we don't have this luxury of looking 30 years ahead. Our only worry is how to feed our 6 to 7 million population the coming years in a stable way and sustainable way. And this worry is exactly what we call food insecurity. So allow me to define first, what is food security? Food security, as per the World Food Summit, exists when people at all times have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. Or in other words, and simply stating, food security is, we are food secure when every one of us has access to available nutritious food in a stable way. So availability, access, utilization, and stability are the four main pillars of the food security. So what is the question today? Why we are here meeting to talk about food security and specifically the stability of the food supply. Let me start by saying that the stability is the first pillar struggling today in the MENA region. The first shocking fact is that as per the FAO, or Food and Agriculture Organization, the MENA is the only region where the overall hunger situation has deteriorated lately and where the food insecurity has increased. Add to it, the MENA region is the largest importer of food in the world, accounting for nearly 1/3 of the global cereal imports. And I can give you an endless list of such examples. But let me zoom in and focus on Lebanon with some numbers. According to the World Bank, our import of food is 18% of our total import. And our wheat production, for example, can reach 140 million metric ton per year, while our consumption is around 10 times more and reaching 1,350 million metric tons, at least in 2019. We have nearly 660,000 hectares of agricultural area. And just for comparison, Ireland has 4.4 million hectares of agricultural areas and is the second most food secure country in the world in 2019 after Singapore. According to some statistics, we waste 30% of edible food, while as per the UN Lebanon Crisis Response Plan for 2017 till 2020, we have 2 million people in need. So why stability is struggling? Well, because of the economic crisis, the regional conflicts, the climate change, etc. Not being able to import a variety of our food needs, our raw material and input for agriculture, not having enough space to produce our own needs, and wasting our remaining resources without optimizing consumption are our next challenges. So we can say that food security is everyone's business. And this is exactly because we should look at the economic crisis and the regional instability as the trigger to shift our mindset from conventional and the traditional agriculture and food processing to smart agri-tech. Today, and like never before, we need to look more at our agricultural practices from a smart perspective and enforce this fusion between agriculture and technology. In the world of digitization, and specifically after the COVID-19 crisis, we need to consider this sector as our first opportunity to improve. We need to make the best use of our limited agricultural fields. And we need to smartly minimize our waste all along the supply chain from farm to fork. And we highly need to switch from import to local production, especially in Lebanon. And this is exactly where we need the tech minds to meet with the agricultural masters as one innovative task force. So again, why food security is everyone's business? Just imagine with me technologies that can substitute imported raw material or equipment and make them in-house. Or other technologies that can help households to produce their own vegetables, or maybe to reduce their food waste. Imagine with me technologies that can help in optimizing the use of urban space for agricultural production, for example. Or other technologies that can help in tracking and collecting data for more visibility on our, let's say, stability and food security, or other data analysis. Or maybe technologies that can help small and medium enterprise optimize their supply chain or minimize their waste or reuse their waste in a circular economy. I am talking about all these challenges to highlight an unlimited space of innovation and creativity. And now I will leave you with this really infinity of potential combination between, let's say, robotics and supply chain optimization or waste reduction, or maybe artificial intelligence with data collection and analysis, or drones and smart agriculture, or even apps and platforms to connect consumers to source of production. All these ideas and much more will help in ensuring more stability in our food supply, in our country, in our region. And we will eventually be collaborating to the global effort of food security all along on the long run. Hopefully, we will be this way helping the world in answering the question we started with about the 9 billion by 2050. Now join me and Berytech in this unstoppable work to create the change in the agricultural sector for a better food secure future. And thank you so much. Zahi.
Thank you. Thank you, Soha, for the amazing presentation. Everyone, I am Zahi Hilal. I am the colleague of Soha. And for all the dreamers, all the innovators, and all the entrepreneurs who will be joining us later this year and the beginning of 2021 in Agritech Accelerator, you will be closely working with me and other mentors, coaches, and experts to realize your business ideas and make the suggestions and the presentation of Soha a reality for Lebanon. As we all know, the business sector is moving to more impact-centric value propositions, and people and business leaders are looking more into achieving profit while also providing impact to the community. So within this scope, we look for startups to generate a profit while providing the food safety net for Lebanon and MENA. One startup that has been doing this for the past year is ground vertical farming. Ground vertical farming is co-founded by a couple, an amazing couple that has been through a lot this year, and we have Rita Asmar with us today to tell us more about their journey with Agritech Batch 3 and her personal story as mompreneur and as a future business owner of a regional business. Rita Asmar, the floor is yours.
Hi all, thank you Zahi for this introduction. I will start by sharing my screen. Ladies and gentlemen, these are tough times, and Lebanon is facing critical economic challenges. Unemployment in Lebanon just hit 40%, and eventually we're going to face hunger. The media has been focusing on the threat of COVID-19 pandemic, the climatical change, the lack of agricultural spaces, and high labor and energy expenses. And most importantly, Lebanon's economic crisis on food stability, especially that 85% of our food is imported. According to the World Bank, Lebanon is a net importer of food, with the latter accounting for 18% of the total of the country's total imports in 2018. And the reliance of domestic consumption on these imports is striking and raises concerns over the stability of a large range of essential items. In times like these, we need to persevere, innovate, and adopt new ways of thinking. And ground vertical farming is the solution for these problems. Supported by the Berytech Asmar Innovation Hub and the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Ground Vertical Farming is a Lebanese startup with a main objective to help agribusinesses, mainly greenhouse owners and individuals willing to benefit from the features of vertical farming, optimize the agricultural space, achieve the highest yield at the best quality, all the while reducing their costs. Ground vertical farming offers a well-rounded combination of hardware and software, where the hardware consists of fully automated vertical panels with irrigation system and embedded with different sensors, where plants and greeneries can be planted into a uniquely designed growing medium. All that is controlled by an intelligent controller. But the best part is that the greenhouse owner or the individual can monitor his planting process through his smartphone using our software that controls the panel's activities and the microclimate of the greenhouse, collects data, and sends it to an intelligent dashboard using an IoT system. And all that for the fraction of the cost, starting $100 per panel and a $20 monthly subscription. Ground vertical farming will double the planting space, reduce water consumption by 90%, labor cost by 80%, and increase the export opportunities by helping the Lebanese producers sell their products at competitive prices. Not only ground solution is built for industrial scale, but also is a risk mitigation for every individual willing to benefit from the features of vertical farming with minimum cost during these times. We offer all tools and means for individuals to help them plant their needs of greeneries through pre-configured data sent to the user on regular basis through the controller. And our panels are modular and designed to fit in any space and are easily installed. They don't require any advanced technical skills nor assistance. Customers will also have the chance to select their growing medium according to their planting needs. And speaking of our growing medium, our CTO Mitri spent these 9 months designing and cutting these meshes with the help and support of the Fab Lab professional team, who helped him handling the machines and guided him through the whole process. This journey wasn't easy and surely won't be in the future in light of these successive events. The COVID-19 pandemic came on the heels of a deep economic, social, and political crisis in Lebanon. Coupled with the recent explosion in the port of Beirut, has delayed some of our activities. But despite the disrupted pace of business, our vision and mission remained the same, with a small twist regarding our market entry. More than ever, Lebanon is in need for our product, as we believe that we can be part of its growth by helping the agri-food business and sector and the individuals fulfill the needs of the domestic market and create export opportunities to strengthen revenues. Fortunately, these unprecedented events didn't discourage the supportive ecosystem we had. The entire Agritech team, part of the Berytech program, has been committed to our success and always managed to motivate us. The physical and virtual meetings and workshops that we did helped us and motivated as much as we can. The positive mental attitude, the skills, character, and the right support community and team helped us settle on the right track. And of course, helped us success in our startup. And of course, we started our first and closed our first sale with a local greenhouse in Jbel, who currently satisfied with the results, with plans to purchase more panels in the future to cover all his greenhouse. For as long as I remember, I've always wanted to be passionate about my work. I didn't want to work just for the paycheck. Waking up each day excited about work is my main goal. Before my son was born, I had great vision of life as a working mom. I would get up, drop him off at daycare, go to work, and then come home and be with him. For me, these past 9 months were hectic and overwhelming and kind of confusing. And since the birth of my first child, I have been trying to manage the stress of juggling first-time motherhood with co-founding vertical farming. But with the support of my husband and also co-founder of Ground, this experience turned out to be the most satisfying one ever. Nobody can prepare you for motherhood. I think many entrepreneurs, especially mompreneurs, believe that they can do more than actually can. They are ambitious, and I know that I certainly did. But having a 9-to-5 job didn't make it any easier. So I had to find a new way to balance, not shift my priorities. I had to work during lunchtime and again in the evenings after bedtimes. I had to rebalance everything and find new ways to multitask, delegate, and manage all my work. As a mompreneur, I am learning how to be more flexible and to accept interruptions without getting flustered. And I'm still working on this part. I always try to leverage the flexibility I have and I love to be able to spend as much time as I can with my family and with my son. In the beginning, I thought it'd be difficult to manage and grow our business while raising children, but it is actually not that strenuous. Sure, there are challenges, but the entire family can step up and help you in many, many different ways. We've realized how important it is to keep our kid engaged in the business and share our success and challenges every day. And sometimes, I don't lie to you, he can get bored, but he's enjoying the trips every time. The truth is, starting a business is very difficult, with new challenges every day. Add to that being a wife and a mother, and trying to balance everything and do a good job at all of those things, and it is nearly impossible. I can't tell you how many times I have forgotten to eat, or even didn't do the house chores that I have to do. And yeah, totally, I missed appointments and that I have been scheduled for weeks. But being a mompreneur while challenging is so much fun. There's never a perfect time to start a family or business. The truth is there's no real preparations. You don't know how to do it until you're doing it. Once you get the hang of a particular phase, the next one hits you head on. But it's the beauty of the mompreneur journey. And the good news is that at the end, you will have both a great career and the rewarding role of being a mother. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Rita, for the amazing presentation. Before we kick off the panel, I want to highlight some of the questions that we have received. For anyone who is interested in asking some questions, please use the links in the chat. One key question pop up is, we have several questions actually about your product, and what kind of vegetables can any person grow using ground vertical farming products?
What kind of that? Well, so far we started with the greeneries, such as basils, kale, and lettuce, and we've managed to grow these greeneries. And with time, we are optimizing to diversify these products. We are working on our growing mediums and add new features to these mediums in order to diversify these products. Okay,
noted. So what is there any Arabic version for your app for people that are not English literature?
Well, it's a subject to think of. For now, we have the Arabic, but it's very easy and it's user-friendly. Anyone can understand. There is graphs and there is numbers, but we'll think of doing an Arabic version. Why not?
Okay. So what is the one thing that will keep you pushing through these tough times and growing your startup? If you will name only one thing, what would it be?
Well, there's many things, if I may say, but mostly is first, the need that we see in the market, the need that we see that Lebanon is in need for our product. And second is the support from the family, from my husband and co-founder, and the need to see an innovative solution grow in this region, especially in Lebanon.
Okay. So thank you, and I will invite you and Soha to join us in the panel. Also on the panel, we have three ladies who are doing great impact, each one in her own career. We have Malak Jafar from World Food Program. Malak is the head of communication and spokesperson of World Food Program in Lebanon. We have Suhad Abu Zaki, an economist and a researcher on the topics of agriculture economics, rural areas development, and food safety. We have Rachel Bahn, the coordinator of AUB Food Safety Program, part of FAFS, the Faculty of Agriculture and Food Sciences. I want to welcome all of you to this panel. Soha and Rita also will be joining us. So to kick off, I will ask the first question both to Rachel and Malak. So can you please expand or give us more input on specifically the Lebanese situation when it comes to food safety and the stability of the food supply? We will start with Malak.
Okay, thank you so much, and hello everyone. I'll try to be avoid jargon because that's what we do in the UN. So basically, food security situation in Lebanon, WFP, the World Food Program in Lebanon, has been kind of flagging it since before the blast. So even prior to the blast, Lebanon has been going through a situation that's a bit concerning, for many reasons that I won't mention, that Soha went through, which is, our reliance on imports. Lebanon imports up to 85% of its food items, the dual currency where we rely on a foreign currency to import, and now with the problem that we have with that. But basically, Lebanon now is dealing with a triple crisis, three crises. So first, there's the ongoing economic crisis, which we all know had a huge impact on basically everyone in the country. And then came COVID-19 and the lockdown measures. During the lockdown measures of COVID-19, we were monitoring the prices of basic food items. So here I'm talking about the basic, the very basic food items, lentils, bulgur, rice, oil, this sort of thing. I'm not talking about luxuries, Nutella and all that. And in those couple of months, in just a period of maybe 5 months, from the beginning of the lockdown until the end, we recorded 165% increase in prices of these basic food items. So COVID-19 and the lockdown measures that were taken in order to guarantee people's safety, because of Lebanon's precarious situation prior to that, and because of the economic crisis, it led to a huge threat to the food security in Lebanon. Because what Soha mentioned at the beginning, which is when it comes to food security, it's not just the availability of food, it's accessibility. People were losing their jobs, the income was being halved, if not more. The Lebanese lira was losing its value. So all these reasons, food is there in the stores, but it's like, can I buy it? Or can I buy it like I used to? There were a lot of reports of famine and all that in the media recently. That's not true. Lebanon, unfortunately, very fortunately, we're not there yet. But the situation is that people now adapt to using different coping mechanisms. So poverty levels are increasing, extreme poverty, which is food insecurity, is increasing. Last year, it was 16%. This year, it's 22% of the Lebanese population. This means close to almost 1 million people in Lebanon would be food insecure. Food insecure, that word, does not equal famine. This is something we would really like to highlight. It could mean many things, but mostly it's also families adapting unhealthy or unpreferable coping mechanisms, eating less nutritious food, skipping on meals, a lot of these coping mechanisms. Only 2 weeks ago, or maybe a week ago, I was in Karantina, one of the neighborhoods heavily affected by the blast, and I was with one family, and we were just discussing, their normal situation, and the woman told me that her kids eat fresh fruits only once a month because they can't afford it, basically. So these kids are still getting a meal or two a day, but an important source of vitamins and minerals, they're not getting that. And I asked about meat, and she said maybe once or twice a month, and they're relying on canned food. This is another phase of vulnerability and food insecurity. So we're not talking about famine, we're talking about malnutrition, we're talking about unhealthy coping mechanism. We're talking about all that. And the final point I'd like to make final point before we move on to Rachel, which is related to a survey that WFP did. So recently, WFP, we did a mobile survey. So we spoke to people like online because of COVID-19, and we, through mobile phones because we couldn't really be with people. For the first time, we usually survey Lebanese, Syrian, Palestinian, everyone in Lebanon. For the first time in ever, the percentage of Lebanese who were concerned about their next meal was 50%. We've never seen that number before, and 50% of the Lebanese surveyed said, we don't know where our next meal is coming from. Another number that kind of worried us, a lot worried us, is about debt. 42% of the Lebanese respondents said they took out debt in order to buy food. And that's something that's, very concerning. So that's just one thing I wanted to get across about food insecurity. I would leave the floor to Rachel now.
Thanks, Malik, and congratulations to WFP. You guys got the big award for the Nobel Peace Prize just last week. So congratulations to WFP. That's fantastic work you guys are doing. I mean, you've already covered so much, so I'm not going to reiterate those things, but I think to expand and just add a bit more of what you've said, what's really important about some of those changes in terms of the nutritional profile of what we see happening. If those continue over a long enough period of time, they will have long-term effects. And so it's important that this shock that we've seen and these changes in dietary patterns, we try and get back to the healthiest profile possible as soon as possible. Because without that, you have the potential for stunting and wasting among kids. If you have those kinds of things happening, malnutrition, that can last through your entire lifetime. If it's the mother and she's pregnant, it can pass through to the next generation of children. So those are really important things that we need to try and get back to a situation where people are able to eat a nutritionally sound diet. That doesn't mean it's the most expensive. It doesn't mean it's the most exotic. So that's one thing on the longer term challenge. And then I think to complement what Malik was saying is maybe I'll turn my attention to the production side of things. So to be clear, we're talking about food security, not food safety. And the idea of stability actually applies to all the dimensions. So to focus now on food supply, I think what's the challenge that we're seeing a lot in terms of local production is you have folks who are producing who have a big incentive right now to export their products. They want to get outside of Lebanon. They want to earn hard currency. They want to earn dollars. It's more preferable. The country needs hard currency because we have to pay for the imports of the things we can't produce. And maintaining that access has been really hard. So we hear stories within the agriculture sector of, producers who can't access the necessary inputs, seeds, fertilizers, pesticides. And so these initial shocks that we've started to see in the past year, I think will probably continue. And so that means that there are serious challenges, but there's also opportunities for improvement in entrepreneurs. And I think where we see a big opportunity there is on anything that is export facing, because the incentive to get people to move in that direction is so clear. So maybe I'll keep my intervention here short for now. So
you have introduced my next question in the very perfect way. My next question is for Sohad and Soha. So the ladies, Rachel and Malak, presented the bleak situation of Lebanon. My question to you is, how can entrepreneurs and businessmen address these humongous challenges and provide solutions for the very vulnerable sectors of our community at a profit, for this profit to help them scale their impacts? So what could be the economics, what could be the business models that we could apply where we will not put a financial burden on the very vulnerable portions of our society, and we can serve these portions while staying financially sustainable? We will start with Sohad.
Okay. First, before talking about what can entrepreneurs do, I usually like to start with definitions just to set things clear. And since we're talking about stability, it's good to understand what are the sources of instability to understand what are the, let's say, rooms or spaces for intervention. So when we talk about instability, we're talking mainly about seasonal variation in stocks, let's say. We're talking about annual variation in the production, either to poor harvest, etc. And we're talking about natural disasters or let's say wars, conflicts, etc. So if we're talking about these three main sources of insecurity, we can understand that if we want to intervene to improve stability, we must focus first on improving, let's say, stocks or reserves. And we must focus on improving, let's say, communal stocks. We must work on improving, let's say, food processing and expanding shelf life. We can talk about reducing food waste and loss. We can also talk about, let's say, localizing the food supply chain, make it shorter, closer to consumers or customers. What else? Basically, these are, stabilizing basically production. So if we understand these things, that would direct entrepreneurs to understand where they have to intervene. So we have, when we talk about innovation, we've been focusing a lot on production and introducing technology to production and so on, which is great. And I don't deny that technology has a huge impact and can unlock the potential of agriculture. But we have to keep in mind that we also need to look more into more sustainable business models. Let's say we've seen the rise of community-based agriculture in the US, and it turned out to be successful in many cases. We can look at that. So what I want to say that technology is really important in different areas. However, it should not be, let's say, the end. We should keep looking at it as a mean. Recently, like a few days ago, McKinsey published a report about digitization in agriculture. And they said that basically introducing technology in agriculture, basically increasing connectivity and digitization in agriculture can unlock or increase global GDP by $500 billion. And at the regional level, we have a potential increase in MENA region by, let's say, around 7%. That's great, but we have to keep in mind that our farmers are still skeptical about using technologies. So we cannot exclusively rely on introducing technology as entrepreneurs and introducing technology in agriculture at this stage. And we have to keep in mind that we don't have the good or adequate infrastructure for that. So I guess we should look on, as entrepreneurs, we should look at decentralizing food supply chains, make it shorter, more efficient, reducing food waste and losses. And I believe that food waste and loss is the greatest space for entrepreneurs to intervene and make a difference, because we have like around 35% or 34% of our food either lost or waste. And according to the World Economic Forum, we have the greatest loss happening in the post-harvest, even before reaching the consumer. So that's huge. And we have people who are hungry. So we must think of innovative ways to reintegrate this lost output in the supply chain and make use of it. So I think this is the major thing. And we have, whenever we're talking about innovation, whether in models or introducing technology, we have to keep in mind what are we targeting, like the profile of the farmers that we're talking about, because the needs and the challenges of small farmers are totally different from the needs and the challenges of large-scale farmers. So, and this is a problem that we usually see since I work with entrepreneurs. We usually see that there is lack of specificity when it comes to solutions. We don't really look at the profile of the farmers when we introduce certain technology, and this is a problem. So if Soha wants to continue.
Yes, the intervention is very holistic, and you have I know you personally, you have this talent of summarizing huge concepts in very few words. So thank you for the holistic intervention. Soha?
Yes, I want just to add a small thing to add to what Suhad already explained. One more reason for instability is the unemployment we are seeing, especially in Lebanon today. So we don't have a stable food supply for households because a big majority of people lost their work. So one more impact of entrepreneurs creating startups and businesses now in this phase is creating job opportunities also to people in order to secure their food on a daily basis. So I wanted just to add this point in creating job opportunities.
Amazing. So you two ladies touched on various points that could become a series of challenges for our next hackathon, maybe. I want to highlight two key important elements. One, the high unemployment that Soha mentioned, and the other one is the lack of communication or the fact that technology entrepreneurs and the typical farmers basically live in two different worlds. So I want to address the question to Rita based on your work, on your evolution as a startup for the past year. What can you tell us about engaging your target customers, validating your product, validating how farmers or how users will use your product, and how you can enhance these usability or user friendliness of the product on such a limited budget?
Yes, Sahi. We face the same issue. And this point is very important, as Ms. Suhad and Soha already talked about. During our market research and market validation, we saw that farmers, as you already said, they are not very open to technology. They are afraid of the technology. But we kind of shifted or pivot our persona. We are targeting agricultural businesses, and we're helping also farmers by using a technology that is user friendly. So it's easy, and it doesn't need any advanced or any professional skills to handle. So our first priority was to make it as simple as it could be. So it have to plug it, as we say, plug it and play. So our panels are fully automated. They don't need the farmers. They don't need to know about all the technical components of the panels. They just have to install the panels and to put them the mediums, to choose their medium according to their needs, and plant their greeneries. They can monitor their system, meanwhile, through their smartphone or through any smart component. So it will be easy for them to handle the panels.
Thank you. And how can people use your product for, let's say, micro scale producers? And can the households benefit from your product to achieve their own minimum threshold of food safety?
Yes, we divided our, if you want, our model into three categories. We have three categories of panels. We have the panels the client or the user can buy from one panel to more than 250 panels. So he can buy a panel. It will be all including the sensors, the irrigation system, and it will be a set according to the IoT system, according to his needs. So he just have to buy the panel, one panel even if you want, and put it. It's very modular. It can fit in any space you have, closed area or open area. and we can set the data, and we'll be sending a pre-configured data to the user. He don't need to be very very technical or very you don't have to know about planting, so it will be easy for him to handle the panels.
Amazing, thank you. So my next question is for Rachel and Suhad. So how can the business model of Ground be replicated in various arenas for entrepreneurs to address the food supply challenges and the food supply stability by either empowering the households or shortening the supply chain of SMEs? So it's twofold. It's how we can empower local productions and how we can enhance or decentralize the supply chains while still making a profit that will help us scale. I will start with Rachel.
Okay. So thank you for the question. I think it's actually quite lumping a lot of concepts there together in one question. I think when you look at what's going on at the household level, and if we're thinking at the household level, the primary role there of being consumption, these kinds of technologies can help the household primarily through reducing their food expenditures. So I think it seems more likely that households, the average household in Lebanon is what, 4.8 people, something like this, is not going to become a commercial scale operation. We might not have enough space, we might not have the right conditions, we might not have the time. I mean, I'd love to be a farmer, but I already have a job. And so I think the idea, the contribution to food security is allowing maybe households to offset a portion of their food expenditure budget. And my guess is that's going to be through production of things that the systems are well suited to produce. So my understanding of hydroponic and vertical agriculture is they're really good for things like certain horticultural crops, certain types of fruits and vegetables. More difficult to do things like staple foods such as wheat, right? They require large areas. They're already a very large part of the Lebanese diet. So it's probably less likely that it would allow us to displace that part of our budget. But, like you said, Malak, if you have a household, I think maybe that household is hopefully an extreme example, but if they're only able to eat fresh fruits and vegetables a couple of times a month, one time a month, you would hope that maybe not even for households in such a difficult situation, because an investment cost like this is probably outside their reach almost certainly. But for other households, it might help them offset. And then maybe that's, consumption that they can use for themselves, for their neighbors, for their families. I think what's interesting about the model is trying to look at a more efficient use of space in a country where commercial agriculture, we do have limited land for production. And again, so looking to in Lebanon, where we keep hearing this high level figure of 80%, we're dependent on food imports for 80% of our food, but there's actually quite a lot of variation within that. Fruits and cereals and legumes are not the same. And so in some ways you have better conditions and better resources to produce certain things that could be done a bit more efficiently with the available resources. I think I'll pass over to Soha.
Okay, one more thing before talking about vertical agriculture. We have lessons from the 2008 food crisis, which we can actually benefit from. In 2008, we had a global increase in food prices, and the increase in food price was huge, and staple food increased by more than 100% and so on. And these prices were actually transmitted into the local market, so we experienced an increase in price, local increase in prices, and basically we observed coping mechanisms, the ones that Malak was talking about at the beginning. People started to substitute change their consumption patterns and substitute certain items for other, and reduce consumption of certain items, skipping meals, borrowing, and so on. There was a study based on the consumption patterns on actual data from the Lebanese market, which observed that as a result of the food crisis, we had families losing a percentage of their nutritional intakes, like calcium, other than energy, calcium, iron, etc. And the greatest increase or the greatest losses in micronutrients happened in Beirut and its suburbs. And the smallest losses happened in Bekaa. And this is something that is very important. First, you understand that having access to land, or let's say to fresh produce, will make you less vulnerable to shocks. Second, people in urban areas and the urban poor are more vulnerable to shocks and food insecurity. This is where vertical farming or hydroponics, etc., can play a major role. First, it's doable in the urban areas. And we have seen models, like successful models, for example, in Egypt, where they have a pilot project in 4 different sites in Cairo, where they trained people to plant on their rooftops using vertical farming and hydroponics, and the result turned out to be very successful. So this kind of technology can enable urban farming, which is good and which increases production and improves stability. And as Rachel said, might give room for in the household budget. It can free some part of the budget to other, let's say, important things like healthcare or education and so on. And as well, we can talk that it improves productivity. It reduces the use of water and perhaps soil and pesticides, so chemicals, so which is another pillar of food safety, which is the utilization. So it has multiple impacts, and it can be useful in different ways.
So Malak, based on what Soha just outlined, can you tell us more how the World Food Programme approach these issues in terms of characterization of beneficiaries, the difference between income level, between urban versus rural, etc.? And what could you provide as insights for entrepreneurs that are looking to launch their own startup in the agri-food space?
Yeah, thank you. So there's one thing that Rachel mentioned and Soha touched on, which is what we're calling right now is the changing face of vulnerability and poverty in Lebanon. So you already have families who are struggling. So the family that I gave the example of in Quarantina, they're already struggling even prior to the blast, prior to COVID-19. So what Rachel said is they don't have the resources to probably, go into vertical farming or this sort of thing. So our approach to them is more of an emergency response. You parachute in, you give support, and then you look into development and sustainability later on. But the first thing, what matters right now is that they meet their food needs, especially that they have children and elderly and people with chronic diseases. That's one, if you want, let's think of it as one segment of the beneficiaries. The other segment is people who are now falling into poverty and becoming food secure in Lebanon. And this is what Suhad mentioned, which is in urban areas mostly. So the former middle class, what was known as the middle class, people who would probably still have access to technology, are tech friendly. In Rita's case, like they do speak other languages, so they can go like on, check out an app in English and this sort of thing. When you approach these people, you can't have a blanket approach in emergency well, most of the time you do, unfortunately, but real development, real emergency support, you can't have a blanket approach. I can't approach the same family that just fell into vulnerability and poverty because they still get an income, but it's in Lebanese lira, or their income was halved, or, even if they still have the same income, nothing happened to their income. If it's in Lebanese lira, their purchasing power is decreasing gradually because of the terrifying increase in food prices. I mean, I mentioned more than 100% in the basic food items. And that's prior to the blast. We're not even sure after the blast, like how much that is. So there's these different segments of, when you want to look for solutions, you have to understand, it's what Suhad said, you can't look at everyone the same. There's localization, localization, localization. Go into the profile of the person. We do that with our beneficiaries, even though it's time consuming and you invest your resources in it, but it's because you want something that's effective. I can't approach the Karantina family the same way as I approach a family in, let's say, Jaitewi, recently affected by the blast, still has a job. What do they do? And I can't approach these people the same way I approach people in rural and marginalized area. That's another thing that Suhad touched upon, which is Beirut isn't Lebanon and Lebanon isn't Beirut. I mean, the solutions that you can come up with for Beirut will not work in other areas, will most probably not work in other areas. In Akkar, in Arsel, in Baalbek, in Hermel, these different segments of society have different profiles and the needs there are different. So really, when you tailor, it's not just tailoring because you want to diversify your programs or your activities or your outputs. You tailor because for it to be effective, you have to understand who you're speaking to, you have to understand who you're addressing, and you have to understand that effective aid or effective support is one that is tailored, localized, and understands the person in front of you is a person and not just just another number or figure or whatever.
So I have a quick question on this matter. How do you collect your data? What are the challenges in terms of collecting, analyzing, classifying, and drawing conclusions from the data on the ground?
Yeah, so this is probably our biggest struggle as WFP. Well, in Lebanon, the one problem that we have, and I'm sure all agencies and other organizations face, is the lack of good data. Yeah, Rachel's nodding. So basically, when we talk about good data, it's clean, verified data that can represent the nation, or at least, huge segments of it. So in Lebanon, we struggle so much with that. And that's why we had to do our mobile surveys, our online surveys. We go to the ground. And now with COVID-19, we're struggling with that. So we're trying to find other sources. So this is one issue that WFP has been trying to overcome along with our partners. So Rachel, and AEB, they're one of our partners, other partners as well on the ground. And that's why we go with something called partners, and we go as local as possible. I mean, I went to this one village in Beqa and Khiara. I mean, we have a cooperative there, and that was a program with the project with ESDU, if I'm not mistaken, with the AEB, the women-led cooperative. It's for us to reach them, we had to partner with ESDU, and through them work with these local cooperatives, gather data, understand the situation there, and then you depend on this sort of thing, this network, this outreach, in order to get this information and verify it. Because unfortunately, that is a very glaring problem when it comes to almost everything related to food security and insecurity in Lebanon, and that's the lack of clean, good data that you can use and you can base your programs and work on.
So Malak, if you want to introduce the challenges of food security to the people of data analytics and coding and machine learning and AI, how would you frame these challenges for them in order to come up with the technological solutions to help you as WFP?
Yeah, so there's no data outside Beirut. So the more marginal and rural the area, the less there's verified data about it. There's no database, for example. Now there's a common program between WFP and FAO, which hasn't taken off yet, and it's something that's in the making, to create this database on who are the farmers in Lebanon. Are they registered somewhere? People who work in agriculture, who are they? What's their need? I mean, do we hear about them other than protests in the news? Do you know who they are? Is there a database on that? There's no clear mechanism in order to communicate with the people working in agriculture. And again, I say the more rural or more marginalized it gets, the harder it is to get this data. There is no data on the state, like for example, how much do they produce, how much do they consume, what are the resources that they need. When I say there's no data, it's not like we don't know, but there's no national or data that represents the nation, that is verified and that is clean and that is collected through transparent and clear mechanism. So it's not that it's not there, it's just we don't know how to reach it, and there's no mechanism in order for us to reach it. And again, one of the main issues that we face is most of the data that we receive is very centralized to Beirut. which is not representative of Lebanon, and unfortunately not representative of the agriculture sector, because when you talk about agriculture, you're definitely not talking about Beirut. So yeah.
So with this in mind, throughout this hour, we presented so many avenues for entrepreneurs to launch their own agri-food businesses, be it in decentralizing the supply chain, being in providing the proper data, being in providing the tools for poor and lower middle class households to produce their own crops and remove a bit of the F&B budget. So my next question is for Rachel and Suhad. You ladies have previous experiences in nurturing food safety and entrepreneurial endeavors in terms of the agri-food startups. How we can increase the linkages and increase the interaction between the students with the expertise, the agri-food students, be it the food scientists, be it the agriculture engineers, be it even the nutrition majors, and the technology majors, be it robotics, be it coding, be it electrical engineering, etc. I will start with Rachel on this question.
I've gotten to go first a couple of times. So how would you like to go first?
Yes, if you want to.
I don't want to always get the first turn.
It's fine since you're like more into the academic realm. It make more sense. Yeah.
Okay. So how to get them to work together across disciplines? I mean, I think what Berytech and Agritech have been doing of trying to force the issue and bring teams together through, I think it was the boot camps, where, okay, now with COVID-19 and social distancing, it's not as easy to literally force them into the same room and into teams. But I think that approach, frankly, sometimes is required. So at AUB, I not only work in the food security program, but I work with, I'm part of our agribusiness program. And, you know, the students who understand agribusiness may not have they may not have the background for app development, for example. So they have an idea, but they don't know how to build an app. They don't really know how much it costs or the process through which you build it and test it and demo it and then try it again. And so I think that sort of the approach of, you know, institutions like Berytech, your power there is to really try and force those solutions and force people to work together. Because I think, you know, for many of us, we're comfortable working with the people that we know, we're comfortable discussing what we feel like we can talk about intelligently. And then we get a step or two beyond and we feel uncomfortable, maybe we don't know. So I think that that's practically one of the best ways to do it. And I hope that that'll be able to continue this year, even if a boot camp in a single location with everybody there is, you know, going to be delayed a couple of months or pushed to a longer period of time.
So just a quick update on all the accelerators and the programs of Berytech. We have moved completely to the digital realm, such as this Berytech Meetup. Berytech Meetups usually happen physically around Beirut area. And we have started the online edition with you ladies. All the hackathons, the boot camps, and the acceleration program is now delivered fully online, fully digital, and we are doing our best to ensure that our startups have the equivalent or even better experience than the physical engagements. And Rita can brief you after the event on their digital. Actually, through right after Sohad, you can brief us a bit on your digital experience and the acceleration program. So Sohad, back to our question, how we can increase the linkages between the disciplines of agri-food sector and the disciplines of engineering, coding, and technology.
So first, food security by itself is a multidisciplinary topic. So you cannot approach it from a pure agricultural lens, and you cannot ignore other aspects. And we have a lot of room for collaboration, let's say, with engineers, mechanical engineers, for example, coders, computer engineers, etc. One way to do it, other than, of course, the acceleration program that you're doing, the boot camps, encouraging students to not just cover the technical part or let's say allocate tasks based on their technical background, but also team up to understand the problem together. Yani it's not about like, it's not just that I'm developing an idea and I'm an agriculture economist who doesn't know how to code and I need a coder. Let's understand the problem together, because we have different, we can have different perspectives for the same issue. We can have different approaches for the same issue. Even if, let's say, we're designing apps for farmers, we can go together to talk to the farmers, because this way we can look at things from different perspectives and therefore come up with a more comprehensive or a better solution. Disseminating information is a must, and involving students in research. I think professors, this is important for professors to involve students, let's say from different departments in their research, to start preparing students to look at this problem from different perspectives and ensure that different, let's say, departments or different students from different majors are involved in the topic. And this is a topic that really affects everyone. So you cannot say I'm an agricultural engineer or economist, so I'm concerned about food security, whereas the computer engineer is not interested or not affected. We're all affected, so we all need to be involved in the solution and understanding it.
Amazing. This is mainly the first phase of our acceleration program. We provide a very small sum of money for our entrepreneurs to actually validate that there is a customer who is willing to buy their product and service, and to validate how this customer will use these services or products to provide or to extract the value that they are seeking. This is exactly what you have touched upon, Soha. So thank you for that. Rita, can you please tell us a bit on the transition? The first transition came in March, basically, when COVID hits. And prior to that, so batch 3, to give a perspective, batch 3 has been through it all. They are not only resilient, they are the anti-fragile among our startups. They started phase 1 of the acceleration program with a revolution. We stopped briefly, for 20 days or something, and then we resumed. And then we start facing the issues of the Lira devaluation, and then we have the COVID-19. And now we have a few restrictions in our businesses due to the lockdowns, and they keep going, and they keep growing their startups non-stop. So Rita, can you please tell us a bit on the digital experiences and the differences between digital experience and physical engagement?
Well, Zahi, as you said, this year was very challenging for us. We started in the physical part of agritech, and many unprecedented events came through, and we went through all. But as for me, I think it was a new experience, the virtual thing, the virtual workshops. But it was more flexible for me. I'm speaking for myself with my work and with the family. It was more flexible, and I could attend more workshops or even participate in more sessions. So despite the difficulties, and I'm a person, I like to communicate with people. I'm a people. So it was a difficult transition at first, but we get used to it. So it's a new thing for us. With the agritech team, part of the Berytech, it was a very good experience, because the team was very supportive, and they guided us through the whole process. Throughout the last 9 months, they've been supportive. They catalyzed our work. Even with the virtual workshops, they were very strict. They have been giving all especially you, Zahi, you are smiling. So it was a very good experience. And I think with this virtual experience, it would be more flexible for mompreneurs like me. And it's better, yeah.
Thank you very much for the testimonial, let's say. So to speak more about moving to digital arena in all our activities, we are starting the outreach for Agritech batch 4, the new batch. You will go through the same journey that Rita and Mitri has went through. And one of the early events that we have is a hackathon with René Mawad Foundation. You can find all the information in the link I have just posted in the chat. So thank you, ladies, for all the valuable gems that you have provided tonight and for your precious time. I will have a round for final words, starting with Soha.
Look, I just would like to thank everyone for the really valuable information, and I wish all the attendees were like we triggered their creativity, and for sure we are waiting for them to apply to Agritech Batch 4 with their new ideas, so we can develop and open new startups and hopefully businesses in Lebanon, despite all the what we are going through. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Soha. Rita?
I would like to start by thanking you and all the panelists for their valuable information and expertise. And I would like also to take this opportunity to encourage future entrepreneur to be part of this program, because it's very important, and they will be in good hands. They will be supported by a very good program, very professional people, and they will help them scale and improve their ideas and be part of Lebanon's growth as we're trying to be.
Thank you, Rita. Malak?
Yeah, I wanted to thank everyone as well, and I really hope we didn't bring you down. I always tell them when people call us, like, it's bad news because we only show up when it's bad news. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're WFP, but there's of course Lebanese working there, but it's a foreign organization, and we depend on local expertise, local minds to come up with local solutions, because you don't want what I mentioned, the blanket approach, and you don't want mismanagement of something that impacts something as big as food security in your country. So this is the type of like expertise or brains or brain power that we do depend on and we do look out for. And we're very happy that you guys reached out to us, because now you're on our radar and we're aware of you guys. And you know, if this is something that we will connect with in the future and hopefully connect with the attendees and what they have to offer. So thank you again for the space and for this opportunity.
Thank you, Malak. I'm looking forward for various future collaborations. Soha?
Soha or Sohad? Yes.
Sohad, sorry, my bad.
Okay. So I want to say to all attendees and those who want to become entrepreneurs or join the new batch of Agritech, we have so many problems in Lebanon, and because we have so many problems, we have so many opportunities and room for improvement. Like every stage of our supply chains are face tremendous challenges and need intervention. And this is basically your space to innovate and improve. As a country, we have the expertise, we have the right people to support in terms of knowledge and research. Data is scarce, that's true, but there are ways to overcome this issue, or at least figure out a way to deal with it. And you just need to have the right company, the right people to support you, Berytech and other programs, EUB and the FAFS, other departments as well. And thank you for this meetup. Really enjoyed the discussion, and thank you all for your input, and Berytech for the invitation.
Thank you, Suhat. Last but definitely not least, Professor Bahn.
Rachel. Thank you very much to everybody. I would absolutely echo what Suhat said, and just, you know, we all know what's going on with the banks. We all know that the outlook for growth is not great, but that means that there's a huge moment for attention on agri-food. There are investors looking for opportunities if they, you know, can put the money somewhere else. There's pressure on the food system now. Rising prices is not great for consumers, but it should mean that there's a bigger incentive to get rid of waste and squeeze food waste and loss out of the system. So seeing the challenges as an opportunity is, I think, maybe one of the best things that that those who are looking to find an opportunity can do. Try and figure out where the movement of what's going on, the challenges we face, aligns with what your idea is. And I guess I would say, just from my experience of having seen my students get out there and talk to people, and it's not going to be perfect the first shot. Give it a shot anyway. Go to the hackathon, go to the boot camp, join, sign up, and see where it goes. Because if you don't try, you won't know. And I guess just for me, then final thank you. And it's a pleasure to actually be here, the day before World Food Day, which is tomorrow or Friday, and also on a panel with so many ladies. So thank you for including me.
The pleasure is ours. Ladies, thank you for your time. For our attendees, you have the links in the chats, and we will be continuously posting on our Berytech Facebook page all the calls for our events and for all our various programs. Please feel free to go and like and follow our page on Facebook, and through our website, you can subscribe to our mailing list to stay updated. Thank you all for your valuable time. Our next session will be next Thursday from 6 to 7:30 a.m. Thank you. Bye-bye.